So that set me going. And from Yoga Vedanta, I moved into Vedas, and then later on, I discussed and discovered Ayurveda, Jyotish, etc. And then came to understand past integrates that covers all aspects of consciousness and even science and cosmology, and is a necessary system of knowledge for everyone to know and for the entire planet and all countries and cultures to study.
Yes.
Based upon that inspiration, I took up this role and have been traveling, teaching, writing now for some decades. Hari Om.
Hari Om. And I'd just like to also then understand from you, sir. Of course, in the current global scenario, we do see this renewed propaganda against Hinduism, be it academia, politicians, who are spreading hate against Hindus, comparing Hindutva to being a radical terrorist ideology. There are campaigns like dismantling global Hindutva and smash Brahmanical patriarchy that are very heavily funded. Why do you think that is happening?
Well, there's several reasons for that. First of all, you must remember that these groups have been there all along. The global missionary movement targeting Hindus for conversion has been there. Of course, the colonial academic scholarship continued in the post-colonial era. But now we have a couple of new things that are changing this in a fundamental way and giving it a different slant. A lot of the old arguments are used: caste, Brahmanical, oppression, intolerance, backwardness, superstition. But now they're faced with the Indian and particularly Hindu diaspora as one of the most affluent, well-educated, and now becoming influential throughout the world, particularly in the English-speaking world, United States, UK, Australia, all of these things. So now suddenly the poor, backward, superstitious Hindus are well educated. So you see this switch in the narrative. There's a lot of jealousy and envy involved with the success of the Hindu community, and particularly the different religion and teachings, but also the color of the skin.
Yes.
So the old anti-India Hindu stereotypes are broken down. So a new set has come in. And part of it, and also the second part, India is also rising, not just the Hindu diaspora.
Absolutely. And on that note is, of course, my second question. We see a lot of modern global Hindus today in, say, Rishi Sunak, who's Prime Minister of the UK, Vivek Ramaswamy, the Indian origin Republican in the race to become perhaps the next US president, who really wear their religion on their sleeve. Do you believe that today's Hindu has come of age?
Today's Hindu is coming of age, not totally come of age yet. And of course, we still have anti-Hindu influences from the leftist and communist groups in India who do have influence in academia that they are pushing. And you have the old vested interest, anti-Hindu interests, that now are more frightened because they see the Hindus rising and coming above them in many areas. So this new scenario has come up. At the same time, these successful Hindus, we see them in medicine, we see them in science, we see them in the media. And many people throughout the world, at least as a certain counterculture, have taken up yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, mantra, Hindu gurus, and all of that. So there is that positive side. In fact, part of the attack on Hinduism and gurus is to keep the Westerners from joining them. So it's a complex situation, but Hindus are awakening, and specifically Hindus are awakening in India. We have groups like the Hindu American Foundation in the United States awakening here, and taking their, getting their influence.
Also, Mr. Frawley, we'd just like to understand, unlike other great religions, say like Christianity and Islam, proponents and practitioners of Hinduism have never sent emissaries for mass religious conversion. Why is that?
Well, Hinduism, first of all, is a Sanatana Dharma. It's a universal tradition, so it is for everyone. And it teaches self-realization and sadhana, discovering a spiritual path for you according to time, place, and person. So in that regard, it embraces all teachings that raise our consciousness. Its goal is not simply outward to convert or conquer the world, but to raise us to a higher level of awareness, which the other groups do not understand.
At the same time, we also now see a rise in ethnic cleansing of Hindus in Islamic states like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh. There are hate crimes against Hindus that are reported almost on a weekly basis from several nations where temples are burnt down, there's hateful graffiti, idols are destroyed, Hindus are also in fact being killed, and Hindus essentially are being shamed for wearing their religion on their sleeves. Who exactly are these people and organizations that are behind this? And do you feel Hinduphobia is real?
Yes, the groups behind are often the same. Those trying to convert, the leftists trying to promote their ideology. And of course, that's the Hindus. And Hinduism is a civilization. Its civilizational model of universality and higher consciousness is often academics with other civilizational models. So it is being looked upon that way. So these things have been going on. They are getting highlighted, particularly in places like Pakistan. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, you do see countries like Saudi and UAE at least honoring Modi and India. So some changes are there. But we have to understand that as India and Hindus rise, the old opponents are naturally going to be making more noise. And a new group will come up because India challenges the civilizational model. It is the oldest of the non-Abrahamic religions, and it is the most yogic, meditational, mystical, scientific, mantric. So it is a new challenge to their civilization overall, one they thought they had won. But now suddenly Hinduism is rising, and along with it, many traditional voices of cultures, many spiritual voices throughout the world. Hari Om.
Absolutely. Mr. Frawley, that brings us to some of our last questions. We've seen, of course, the West imbibing yoga, Ayurveda, spirituality in its physical form, almost like it's a fad or some sort of a trend that everybody wants to follow because it looks cool to do so. We have Steve Jobs and, of course, the Beatles or Julia Roberts all traveling to India to find themselves, they say. Julia Roberts has named her kids after Hindu idols as well. How can the world truly be brought to understand the teachings of Hinduism and Sanatan Dharma as a way of life rather than a religion?
Well, here I have to disagree with you to some degree. There's something called the legal rights of a religion in all the countries of the world. Now, very few countries actually give Hinduism the legal rights of a religion. And what that means, Hindu marriage, Hindu temples, Hindu education, Hindu nonprofit, these things become marginalized or threatened or even inhibited. Whereas in countries like the United States, where Hinduism is recognized as a religion, there's a lot of legal support you can get, and there's a recognition of discussion. You're not a lower group compared to the monastic religions. So Hinduism must be claimed as a religion, but not as an Abrahamic, the old idea of religion, but as you say, a way of life, but universal life, universal consciousness, and embracing, I call it a religion plus, because it's not just a faith. You say it's a way of life, but more than an ordinary way of life. It is embracing art, medicine, every sort of yogic and individual spirituality. It embraces all paths that teach a way of self-realization, yes, connecting to the sacred, the divine. So it needs to be looked at in its own category that includes religion in a certain sense, but transcends it and goes beyond it in many others. and is a way of self-realization for everyone.
And Mr. Frawley, before we let you go, quick question. Of course, Hindu Vedic texts, they span many volumes, thousands and hundreds of chapters. You've spent, of course, your entire life studying them. For those who may not have that sort of time, how do we make these teachings more accessible to the next generation?
Well, first of all, to make them acceptable to the next generation, we have to practice them. We have to be devoted to them, inspired by them. Can't be followed just mechanically. We should take children to temples, rituals, pilgrimages. We should explore with them things like mantra, asana, yoga, all these things. Make it living for them. And if we do that, Hinduism has many more resources. And look at the art, the music, the dance, the science, the medicine, tremendous resources. And we need to expose the young people to those. And we need to teach our children what is Hinduism before they go to school or talk to other people who may give them a wrong or negative view, and raise them in the image of the great gurus and teachers of Hinduism, from the independence movement to Vedas, to yoga teachers, to the yoga teachers who've traveled the world, to the Hindus active socially, politically, and from the independence also today. Make it living for you, make it living for your children, and share the inspiration.
Thank you so much, Mr. Frawley, David Frawley. That was David Frawley. Let's have a round of applause for him. Thank you so much for taking our time to join us at the Festival of Ideas 2023.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.